What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Champion Mindset, Finding the Way. I'm your host, Tommy Stiles. With me, Dom Cardone. Dom, how you doing, buddy?
Good, brother. How are you?
Can't complain. It's a beautiful day. We were just talking off air. Thought a good intro and a good topic for this week's episode is in the world of, bodybuilding, or in your case now, MMA. If you knew that the outcome was that you were going to lose the show that you were prepping for, there's zero chance that you win, would you still go through with the prep? Or in your case, if you knew that you were going to lose the fight, there's zero chance you come out the winner, do you still go through with the fight camp and the process to get to the destination?
So I have two examples. I actually have done that, and that was with the New York Pro, which I'll get into. But real quickly to touch on, it was actually last night. There was an interview. I listen to interviews when I work. It was with the boxer Ryan Garcia, and he had mentioned he was like there was one. It was literally just last night. He mentioned there was one fight where I knew I was going to lose. He was like, that was the only time it was in my head. And he said he was in the locker room. He was warming up. He said everything that could have went wrong during the camp went wrong. Things just weren't clicking. He was actually fighting Gervonta Davis, and he wound up losing. And but he said that was the only time he ever felt that, but he still had to go through with it. And there, a lot of times fighters, they'll pull out of a fight, they get sick, maybe they get injured. Um, Sometimes in that world, business wise, strategically, that is the smart thing to do because your record stays with you, fight purses and camps are at stake. But that made me think, it was literally last night, so it's funny you're asking this. Back to when I did the New York Pro. So when I started that prep, Oscar was doing my training, was working with Aceto for diet, and like we were convinced I was going to be able to possibly crack the top five, maybe the top six. I mean, 6, 7 weeks out, you've heard the story. I looked fucking amazing, 250 pounds. I knew I wouldn't have lost that much more weight, would have looked insane peeled. My mom went into a coma. Everything, everything that could have went wrong went wrong. Between the sleep, I obviously never cheated on my diet, never missed a training session, never missed a cardio session. But between the actual true stress and not sleeping, like my body just withered away. And it was actually 2 weeks out. 2 weeks out, when I was still stuck in my head. I remember calling my dad. I was laying in bed, and I'm laying there. Before I even called him, I'm like, I know there's no shot of me even making an impact at this show. Like I was like 230 pounds. Looked, it wasn't a good 230 either. It was a very skinny, fat, just depleted look. And part of me, most of me, said, let me pull out of this show, give myself a few weeks to bounce back, recover my body, come off the gear for a little bit, refresh things, pick a new show maybe in a month, 2 months, and go back at it. And I call my dad, who I go to for almost all my advice. And he's like, no. He's like, you're not going. And I asked him, I says, I don't think I should do this show. It was a week after my mom died, maybe 4 or 5 days. And I asked him, I go, I just don't, this isn't going to be good. And I think I should pull out. And he said, right away, he's like, you finish what you started. You finish what you started. Now, is this an absolute for everybody? No. In this because there are some certain circumstance situations where I had put people's preps and pushed them forward. Not for the reason of knowing that they would lose, but obviously our goal is to always get somebody on stage at the best they possibly could. So I don't want anybody to take this and be like, no, I have to step on stage because, then you're spending all that money, you're spending all that time. In this case, it was a bit different. And what he said was, you finish what you started. He's like, you watched your mom fight through cancer. She never gave up. She just died, pushed to her last breath. Is that you get up on that stage and you finish what you started, regardless of the outcome. And that was, at the time, I didn't realize the lesson it was teaching me. Um, but it was one of the greatest lessons I ever learned for many reasons, because I knew I wasn't going to make this impact everybody said I was, muscular development, all the forums and social media, but most importantly, me, my coaches, but most importantly, me. So, I had a choice. Do I push forward and give it 100% of my effort and finish what I started, regardless of the outcome, and accept it? Or do I give it a half-ass effort, knowing that I'm going to step on stage and lose? Or do I push the show back? Probably would have been wise to push the show back, right? But I kept going. Never missed a cardio session. Never missed a meal. Unfortunately, wasn't enough time for my body to recover. Stepped on stage, maybe 205 pounds, 206 pounds, which turned pro at 225. But what it taught me was, regardless of whatever can go on in my life, the circumstance, the situation is that I still got there, stepped on stage. Was I pro level? There was some shots. There was some shots next to like Jeff Beck and Max Charles I didn't look too bad in. But that was a landmarker for me, to set certain bar and standard in my life. Like, okay, I still stuck to the process. I stuck to my commitment that I made for myself and that I've made publicly, and I finished it. And I would have to say, for a few years, that didn't really resonate with me, because I never even really thought about it up until a couple of years ago, maybe, especially over the last year and a half, 2 years. But because I stuck with the process, because I literally did not miss a damn thing. Even when she was in a coma, I didn't miss anything. Living in a hospital, didn't miss anything. She died. I trained in between her morning funeral, the two showings. Never, I still did everything. And I was still able to be there for my family. It, it, it truly made me embrace and understand what my father would teach us our whole life, is to always finish what you started. Now, again, just to paraphrase and put a disclaimer on that, like I said before, there was certain situations where it would be wise to back out of your, but replan. But for this, I knew I was going to lose. I knew I wasn't going to look my best, but I still stuck forward. I still did it, and I'm glad I did, because I look back, I conquered all those daily wins when everything was literally against me, physically and mentally. And two, it also set an example for people, for those that even want to accept it as an example. Who am I to tell somebody to push through something when I haven't done it myself? You
Mm.
know, there's a lot of people on social media who talk about being hard and pushing through adversity and this, but yet, have they ever done it? Have they ever gone through it? So it gives me a bit more confidence to instruct somebody when and why to do that. That was another big reason, another big thing that I did learn in that prep. And finishing it was, there's certain people who come to me with situations, and I'm like, dude, like, this is not to put myself on a pedestal, but this is what I dealt with. You could deal with this. You can do this. And it puts in there. Dave Paloma told me years ago. He's like, I told him I don't want to keep repeating my stories. He's like, Dom, there's always going to be people who haven't heard your story, who may resonate with it, who may take something from it, may learn something from it, and they'll be like, shit, my situation really isn't anything. Let me screw my head on tight. Let me, you know, stay hard in this grind. So it actually did happen to me. That was the first and only time that's ever happened to me. As you know, I never got to compete as a pro ever again. And then I heard that interview last night with Ryan Garcia. But yeah, definitely one of the most impactful lessons I have learned in my life.
Yeah. I knew that would be later the parallels, that would be your answer, but you know, we talk about last week, we talked about how everything is shiny now and everyone wants the shiny object. They want the destination, they want the result, they want the 15 minutes of fame that you get if you win a show or whatever the case is. And today's competitors miss out on the best part, and it's the process. The process is greater than the outcome. So, you know, I think, moving forward, I'm going to start asking newer competitors that question when we're talking about preps or if they're hiring me for shows, to really see where their head's at. Because and it's true, if you don't love the process, if you don't love what you're doing day to day to get to that shiny stage with the tan and the oil and the pictures and the social media commemoration that's going to come from that day, you're not going to have a positive experience, win or loss. So when I think about my own like I've had the same thing. I knew I wasn't going to win USA's. I didn't go there. My goal was to make the first call out. Didn't make the first call out, won the second call out. So I got as close as I could to what my goal was for that show. In 2021, when Dusty went into a coma and in the hospital, I, in hindsight, I probably should have pushed the show date because I had a similar experience to you where it was just like sleep went out the window, stress went out the window, my gut was a mess. Uh, I still got on stage, but I remember the week of the show, I knew I was like, someone's beating me. There's no way I'm winning this show looking like this. And it was humbling. It was humbling to lose that competitive winning spirit that I had earlier in the prep. And then it just kind of at the last 4 to 5 weeks, it just became just get to the stage. Just make sure you get, that's the win is if you show up on show day and you didn't bail out and you didn't push your show date and you didn't use any excuses. So I think, context is king. And I'm the same with you. If somebody had a circumstance that I thought would do them better to push the show date, because the stage is always there. But in bodybuilding, especially, you're going to lose more shows than you win. For most of us, I know you had a different experience, but so if you're not in love with that process, and if that process isn't what drives you throughout the year, not just even in prep, then you're never going to get the lessons that bodybuilding can give you that you can take to the rest of your life. That discipline to stick with something, knowing the outcome isn't going to be the one you want, carries over into life because that's what keeps you showing up when life gets hard and throws you curveballs. So I think a lot about, especially lately, our podcast last week, which is up, if you haven't checked it out. I think about the process in everything, my process in life, my process in building my coaching business. There's ebbs and flows. There's times when, you're getting a lot of clients, and there's times where you lose a lot of clients overnight and you're like, all right, I got to go back to getting people. I got to get new clients. Same with, the gut protocol. That was a blow at first. Like, damn, I'm not competing this year. And now, now that I'm kind of out of the weeds of it and we're pushing forward a little bit more each week, I realized that was a part of my process that had to happen for the future outcome that I want. But if you told me today that the next show you do, you will not win, I'll still give everything every single day to get to that show because there's so many learning lessons within that process that are available to me that I can still take moving forward, even with a loss on the stage. And that will lead me to eventually I will win. That's the belief. So if you tell me I'm going to lose the next show I do, okay, I'm still going to find a way to win every single day going into that show. And I'm still going to have a stronger mindset than the guy who actually wins. That's how I felt at USA's. I felt coming off stage after prejudging, I was winning more than the guys that were like first, second, and third because I was already thinking of what's next. Nationals in 2024 is next. Obviously, curveball happened. Life, had other plans. So now whatever stage in 2025 is next. But I think if you can separate yourself from the shiny thing and the outcome, there's so much to be taken from it that eventually the outcome lines up with the process and you get to win both. You get to win the process and the outcome.
No, dude, absolutely. I mean, it's even for me with the gut. I mean, we've spoken about my gut protocol. I was supposed to be fighting first quarter of 24. At first, I was like, I was beyond upset. I'm like, fuck, I can't train.
Yep.
Now I can't go after this goal that I set for myself. But I'm like, once we got into it, I'm like, all right, I just bit down, got through it, and now my training's the best it's ever been. I'm training more than I've ever trained. I'm training harder than I've ever trained. I'm retaining information more than I've ever retained. Um, I learned about my body now that I can help others with the same issues that they may have. So, the whole cliche saying of everything happens for a reason, it absolutely does. And, we've said on here, something I try to remind myself all the time. I'm absolutely not perfect with it by any means. How you do one thing is how you do all things. right? So we see these athletes who sign on for coaching. Well, do whatever it takes. I want to become pro bodybuilder. I want to become Mr. Olympia. I want to get to the Olympia stage. What about the in betweens? Like, I have an athlete right now getting ready to compete for the first time um, in 2 months, no, excuse me, 3 months, 14 weeks. And he signed up with me last July. I looked at it. At first, I hopped on the phone with him. Everything was yes, coach, yes, coach. Yeah, I just started bodybuilding a year ago. I just love it. I just want to, get proper coaching and see what I can do with this. He sent me pictures. I was on the phone. He had no idea how to pose. He was doing the Frankenstein poses, like just hands out like this, side, and immediately I thought in my head, this guy is absolutely going to be a future Olympian, top Olympian, possibly Mr. Olympia, if he has the mindset for this. So I tried not getting too excited at first, because we've seen guys with genetically blessed just completely go off the grid, going against what is bodybuilding, and it's the process and the lessons that we learn during it. And he's not really in social media. Like, he'll post once in a while. He doesn't care about social media. The guy just loves bodybuilding. He told me, I just want to fill out my physique. Meanwhile, I was 280 pounds coming off playing football, jacked, jacked. Just started bodybuilding, no idea how to eat. Training was horrific. And last night, I got off the phone with Joey on the posing coach. He was like, dude, he was like, I mean, he has no idea how to pose. He's learning, but this guy could be something. Um, all he says is, I don't, when I talk to him, all he says is, I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let myself down. I just love this. He doesn't talk about, he has no idea what he even is capable of, which is great. He's very innocent. He's not in the industry. But the, because he was such a high level college football player, he has taken that mindset and brought it into bodybuilding. He doesn't care about the social media fame. He doesn't care about all the guy just truly loves training, eating, and all the in-betweens. And it ties into what we're saying, is because this is a guy that is genetically blessed, but he says, fuck all the bullshit. Let's do this for what it's supposed to be. The reasons that you and I bodybuild, that I did bodybuild for, the reasons why you currently bodybuild. Um, and I wish more people were like that, because a lot of people do leave untapped potential on the table. But most importantly, to resonate with what we're saying, the lessons that can be learned from the process and not being so focused on the outcome can give you an abundance of opportunity and wins in your personal life and personal development, as you and I both know very well. Um, See, it all ties together in some way, but unfortunately, there's people today that, I want my stage pictures. I want to take a picture with my hardware, but let's talk about like, you see all the stories. I love to tell stories about the memories and the things that I've learned. That, did I love winning? Absolutely. Of course. Who doesn't love to win? It's competition. But it brings me great joy that I always was love the process of it all, the things that I've learned and the memories, because that stuff will be with me forever. And I'll be able to pass it on to all you guys as me athletes and people in the public, because that was the most memorable and valuable part of my bodybuilding career, was, just truly enjoying it for what it is and what it's supposed to be enjoyed as.
Yeah, I think, that's the stuff that will stick with you. The USA is in 2023. It's not the seventh place that comes to my mind when I think about it. It's trip after trip from my Airbnb to your hotel room to have you look at me and give me the next meal. And then it's staying with Turner for 5 days, and just him and I never get 5 days just to hang out and be boys. We live in different states. So that's what I think about, rather than, well, I took seventh at that show. That was a horrible, I didn't win. It's like, I don't care. I wouldn't have had it any other way, because I came off the stage with a concrete plan for another show 14 months away, which I don't think too many people knew what they were going to be doing step by step by step. And obviously the plans have adjusted. But I think that's what separates someone who wants to identify as a winner and losers is winners pivot, winners adjust. When you see a winner win, you don't know their backstory. You don't know it probably didn't go smoothly up until that point. And that's the only difference between a winner and a loser is that a loser can take the victim mentality. They can let a loss define them when I think, you've got plenty of losses in your career, not on the stage, but in life where you take those on the chin and keep moving forward. And that's what makes you the coach you are today. Same with me. Like I've got life experience that allows me to be confident to lead people towards their goals. If the goal is a show or I'm working with somebody else, whatever the case is. And I think social media today lacks humility. And it's the online coaching world, there's no regulations to become a coach. You can type, I'm taking clients, send a post out, and people can then hire you. It's up to them to do their due diligence to see what kind of background you have, what kind of knowledge you have, what kind of experience you have, all of that. But there's no like board that you have to be certified by. There's no governing body that can say you're qualified and you're not. So I think, for younger people listening or anybody listening, vetting who to hire and how not to plug myself or you, but hire someone who has humility enough to have conversations like these, but also there are things I don't know as a coach. I'm excited to learn them. Like for peaking athletes, I'm confident in the peaks that I've done, but there's a lot more peaking I want to do to say that, I really understand the peaking process. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people who have peaked less people than me that on social media, they act like they've got it all figured out and there's nothing that could come their way and they just understand everything. And I can't understand that kind of confidence because it's not real. Experience is everything. How can you tell me you're good at something when you've only done it a couple times if you're lucky? So, humility is what's missing from social media. Even if, you lose, you can still make a post that shows your humility. You can talk about everything that you learned through that process. And you don't have to lead off with not the outcome we were hoping for. Every single competitor is gunning for the win. That's what we all think. Everyone uses the win as fuel to do 4 a.m. cardio and to go without carbs and to be hungry and to withhold from functions and stuff. Everyone uses the win as a driving force and that winning that show day. But it only happens for one person getting on the stage. You know what I mean? There's only one last man standing. So there has to be something else driving you to keep going back and to keep doing it for years to see what your potential even is. But, you can have large goals and still have humility at the same time.
Well, absolutely. And I was at my gym the other day, and they had these two signs on the wall. One is the 10 Commandments of being a pro. This is the MMA gym, like American Top Team, but there's championship attributes, which this is going to tie into what we're saying. Perseverance, discipline, focus, work ethic, determination, fight IQ, passionate, dedicated, goal orientated, obsessed, and the last one, enjoy the journey. So it's such a powerful. They have it right next to the locker room, that next to the 10 Commandments of being a pro. Um, and where in that does it say? Of course, the goal is to win. Where in that does it say winning?
Right.
It's all about the attributes needed to go through the process, enjoy the process, learn from the process, and enjoying the journey. It's all the inner workings and that is true. Those small little things are what truly makes up the big picture. What truly makes up a great athlete, what truly makes up a great coach. All that applies to a coach as well. Um, Again, anybody can, like to your point, anybody can go on social media and make it seem like they are a star coach. Anybody.
Yeah.
There are coaches that teach people. There are coaches that teach people how to do that, and it's wrong. But who is truly made up of those attributes? Who are the coaches and athletes that are truly made up of those attributes? Very far and few these days, because it's all about the outcome, the 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 things that come from the outcome, the little 15 minutes of social media fame, the friends and family, and then when all that's gone, what do you have? I've been through it. I remember when I turned pro, 3 days after, my dad sat down with me. He's like, I need to talk to you. He's like, I wasn't a pro athlete or anything. He's like, but you have to be prepared. He's like, you're going to be hot for a while, but there's going to be a time when you're not. And you have to remember why you did this, why you do this, what you've gone through. And that was when my mom started going through cancer. He's like, that's what's most important, because a lot of these athletes, they fall into drugs and alcohol or any type of vice or depression because they lose sight of what matters the most. And what you and I are talking about is what matters the most.
How often do you look at those 10 commandments and at a certain moment in time, it just one of them catches your eye and it like it so you find a new meaning for it in that moment?
Almost every week.
Yeah.
And literally, that's why I've taken so many pictures of it throughout the past from last May till now. And what really stuck out to me when I took a picture of it 2 days ago, it was literally 2 days ago, I was coming out of the locker room and it was goal orientated. It was goal oriented. I don't have a fight set up right now. My fight, I'm supposed to be fighting first quarter, but it was goal orientated. What are my goals that we've been setting and hitting weekly to make up those wins to lead up to the camp to go into the fight? There's always, I mean, it's a long list. It,
Hmm.
it's awesome, this list. I don't know if you can read it, but I'll send it to you.
I
And
got
I'll
it.
take a picture of the 10 Commandments of a Pro because something you could look back on. But I was being goal orientated, and it literally ties into what we are talking about. Those wins, the process, the daily wins, the process. That's what matters the most, right? Not just that end goal, but all the goals that we make on a dare on a every day. Every day we should have some goal for bodybuilding. Eating all my meals today, doing all my cardio, training as hard as I absolutely can, developing my mind as an athlete. For me, it's obviously different things, but that's what stuck out to me because those are all attributes of a process-driven individual versus outcome-driven.
And enough time over time, if you're winning the process over and over and over, you have to be like that's my belief is you will be rewarded over time with that win. It might take several losses, but eventually you get to be the last man standing because you didn't quit. You stayed the course and you stuck to the process. And no matter what life throws at you, the process can definitely save your life because there's a lot of times where I get flustered with what's going on in my real life, but the process and habits that I have towards making short-term wins is what just keeps me centered. That's like my anchor. And without that, I mean, I could fly off the deep end and, blow up everything. But, so a lot of times it's what I fall back on is like, all right, at least I know how to bodybuild and I know how to get my meals in and I know how to train and I know how to drink water and salt my meals and all these little things that I do without even thinking twice about it. I just know how to do when times gets tough. If I get like a crazy bill out of nowhere or tax bill or something, it's like that sucks, but I have this as my process doesn't change. I'm still gunning for whatever it is I'm gunning for. And that's a good tie into what we talked about last week, short-term wins to set up long-term wins. That's how you have to break it down in order to achieve large, sizable long-term goals. Because if you just look at the destination, which could be way off in the distance, you're going to burn out simply because you're not driven enough to get there. It's just kind of like, it's like a dog that doesn't want to play anymore. They don't go for the ball. They're done playing. And that's how humans are if you don't create stepping stones to get to the long-term goals.
And it also becomes overwhelming for some people.
Yeah.
If you don't have a strategic plan, if you don't have these goals that are laid out, it's easy. Most humans would say, this is a lot for me. Fuck it. There are those humans that say, all right, I see that I'm going to get there no matter how long I'm going to take. How long, my dad is what it is, how long it's going to take. I'm going to get there. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. Is that the smartest way? uh, in his case, it's either a massive win or it's not. But that's just his mentality. I have some of those attributes, which I had to like change over the past years because I'm like, all right, making these goals and setting up the process accordingly to whatever it is that I'm chasing, that makes it a bit more doable. But the average human is obviously going to say, okay, this is too much for me. Like, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. I'm scared. It's that fear. I'm done. But again, going the process and having these goals and wins that you're trying to achieve on a daily basis will not only elevate your life towards whatever it is you're pushing, but it will help the other if you allow it to and aware of it. It absolutely will allow everything else in your life to flourish and prosper. I'm an example of that because I took those lessons, applied it to my coaching. I'm going to achieve X, Y, and Z. But how am I going to get there with my athletes? And I break it down even further with each athlete. What am I going to do with them? Financially, how am I going to get to X, Y, and Z? How am I going to save? What am I going to budget on? What am I going to invest? Like every part of my life now is like this. And the whole process of going through it, now I look back on the last couple, whenever I hit a goal, I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, I hit that goal. But what was what led up to that was the biggest fucking, like, I get so happy thinking about these things in my head, was the biggest win of them all because of lessons that were learned, um, mistakes that were made. I didn't even hit some goals I didn't hit, but
Yeah.
still the fact that I laid out a game plan and was strategic, and even when there were curveballs thrown, adapted or game, pushed forward, got through it. But that is the biggest point to drive home is would you still do it if you would lose? A lot of people would say no.
It's a valid question. I think anybody listening, look yourself in the mirror and verbally say it. Would I still do what I'm trying to do if I know the end result is a loss? And you'll learn a lot about yourself, and you might save yourself a lot of trouble and time if it might not be something you even want to enter because you are outcome driven. And take it from us, because we've been in the bodybuilding industry a long time combined. If you're driven by wins, you won't last and you won't get any fulfillment out of it. I've seen winners who aren't happy and they aren't able to have conversations like this. I've seen overall winners who they fizzle out quicker than people that lose multiple shows because they haven't done the work to focus on the process. Maybe it came easy for them, maybe they did a weak show, whatever the case is. But if you don't set up your systems and your habits and your rituals, and you're not able to stack short-term wins even when your life might be a mess, you're not going to last in this endeavor of bodybuilding and probably anything. I mean, same thing with MMA. I imagine it's a lot of the same parallels are there. Like, you can't have large goals and get into, fighting another human and expect to be like an ace right away. It takes time, and it's all about, time and repetition.
And that's why this has been a big learning process for me since I first started, because it was brand new to me. I'm coming out of being a professional bodybuilder. I thought I was going to do the New York Pro and win the New York. Wanted to win the New York Pro, get to the Olympia stage. For me, but the level of standard I was holding I was looking at guys in the UFC and getting frustrated with myself on why I wasn't performing like them, which sounds completely ridiculous, but it's just it is definitely it was definitely humbling. And but also too, it's a reminder that you need to set your goals, set your wins, um, on the level that you're at. Because shit, if I just stood focused on getting into a cage to fight another human, I'm gonna get the fucking shit kicked out of me.
Right.
Not only, of course, that's a blow to a man's ego, and of course, it's a part of that game. It's bound to happen pretty much with anybody. Um, it's fucking embarrassing too,
Yeah.
but it's more so as of especially the last 4 or 5 months that I'm like, okay, like I'm on the level that I'm at. I'm striving to get to the highest level possible. Let me cool it down a bit. Let me focus on the process a bit more because I was caught myself becoming more outcome driven. Pulled
Mm.
that back. I think the gut stuff really like resetted me. So then when I started up again, I was like, now it's just been fucking every day, every week, the last few weeks, just constant progression, constant progression. Now I'm like, all right, how am I going to get better today? What am I going to do in training today? Before we start training, my coach tells me what we're going to go over today. Okay, let's get better at it. And we just keep adding, we just add small pieces on every day, every day. And this whole process of the time I had off and the gut was really reset me back to that level. I'm like, okay, why am I doing this?
Yep.
Why am I doing this? It made me really think, why am I doing this to myself? What's really important in the take homes to come home from is rather than just, you know, going into a fight, which is a
Right.
pretty fucking thing.
So that's the question of the day. Does the process weigh more than the outcome for you? Think on it. Comment below what you think. Let me know where you're at in your process. Let us know where you're at in your process. Anything that you took of value, please let us know. Negative feedback, send us that too. Always looking to get better. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And for Dom Cardone, I'm Tommy Stiles. Till next time, we're out of here.